So, hi, my name's Nick Craig, and this is the Leading from Purpose podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, someone who I've been working with for a number of years. This is Michael Kehlet. Michael is the head of talent and development at Lego. Now, Lego is not just any company. Lego has this beautiful purpose, which is to create the builders of tomorrow. And Michael has been at Lego for over 15 years, so he's really been in the system for a long time and watched the ups and downs and challenges. So today we're going to have a conversation in two parts. The first part is going to be about Michael and his purpose. And second part is going to be about purpose as an individual and its connection to organizational purpose in the context of Lego and what its journey has been on. So, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
And so I see behind you, you have some Legos. Is that true?
I do. Not just behind me, I actually have it all over the place in the house and even actually in our garage.
You have Legos in your garage as well. Okay, you could have had them in the garden as well. I probably would be the case, yes. But that's great.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So
exactly.
So you are where today?
So I'm in my home office. Actually, we live out in the countryside, and I have this isolated, nice place where I thrive right now, and also challenged in the COVID-19 situation.
So you're in Denmark, is that correct?
Yep.
What is the actual town that you live in?
So it's called Voladegård. The nearest town would be Skanderborg, which nobody knows either. So Aarhus would probably be,
okay.
Maybe 5% of your listeners will know where that is in Denmark.
That's really great. So what I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about you and your journey around your purpose. So would you be willing to share with us what your purpose is?
Yeah, absolutely. So my purpose is that I'm the loving farmer that rings the bell when rain is coming. And that has been, the statement and the sentence that came as part of the first program that I went through. I've been through a couple, as you know, and it's just stuck with me ever since.
So what are those words? It's very poetic to hear that, but what does that mean for you, those words?
Yeah, so it all comes from the time when I was a little child. My grandparents lived on a farm, and that was my hideout. It was my place to go. I loved going there, and just this entire spirit comes from the farm and what I experienced there over many years. And the purpose is sort of you could say separated into three buckets. The first one, the loving farmer. I am a family guy. I'm an emotional person. I'm somebody that you've experienced countless times. Sharing my emotions is very visible. So this thing about wearing my heart on my sleeve is something that people quickly see. So that's the first one. That's the loving farmer. Ringing the bell. Ring the bell is that I find myself countless times to be in a department, in an organization where I see potential. And when I see potential, I can't help but ring the bell. I can't help but try to help make people aware of what they could do so even more of, or what, set the bar high. And even at times, because there's also a flip side to every purpose, even at times when people maybe don't want to listen, and I'll still sometimes ring the bell a little bit extra, and that can of course be a challenge. And then the last one is when rain is coming, and that's the metaphor for when my grandfather would basically prepare the soil, sow out the seeds, and have everything ready. All he needed to do was step away from it and then let nature do its course. Let rain come to nourish the crops. Let the sun come to make them rise. And that's sort of the last part that once you've rung the bell and you've helped people on a path, you need to step away and just only be there if something happens and they need you as well. So those are the three components.
Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful to hear. And I get this image of you as a kid with in this scene on this. Now, tell us about your story. Do you have the bell?
I do. So basically, the whole story behind and how I ended up this was that when I was this young kid, I always went up during the summer and helped my grandfather with the harvest, and my parents would be there, my sister would be there. And when I was too young to actually go and physically help out, I would run around in the forest or out in the garden. And my grandparents would have this bell that my grandmother would ring whenever help was needed. So it could be that my grandfather would come in and I would come running down. And when I was in the program, I remember the sound of the bell so distinct. It's interesting how these images just sort of,
Yeah.
rests with you. And on the plane ride back, I came to think of the bell. And on my way home, it was quite late. I called my mother and I said, "Where did this bell actually disappear off to? Where did it go?" And my mother said, well, she couldn't quite remember, but she knew they took it with them. They moved house, so they took them with them to the next house. But from there, she had no clue. But I actually managed to track down the bell. I found it at this house they used to live. I contacted the owner, and actually the bell now is outside on our own farm. And when the kids are down in the forest, just like they did 2 days ago, and they were running off and dinner was ready, guess what we ring, and guess who comes running now? It's a beautiful, beautiful
Wow.
reminder.
So this metaphor is beautiful, and I guess the question is, as head of talent for and development for Lego, how have you lived? How have you been able to live this? And is there a couple examples you could give us of what does it really look like for you to bring this alive?
Yeah, I think coming out of the purpose session, I've been in countless of leadership interventions and development programs when you come out with great intent and you really want to do something different. You want to make sure your day is more in your purpose, or that you are more building on your strengths. And yes, it's had an impact to me, but not as deeply. I've always ended up returning a little bit back to the old ways of working, and the calendar is full and so on and so forth. So the first one that sort of fundamentally changed for me is, and it's weird. I hear it also with other people that go through, but something happened in this 2.5 day I spent on finding my own purpose, the way I connected to the story. And what happened actually was I created this purpose to impact plan. And coming back, I actually changed a lot of the way that I work. Because it was quite interesting. There was a period of time when we discussed, and this as you were coaching me through it, there was a part of me thinking, is there actually part of my agenda that in order for me to live in my purpose that I shouldn't do, and what I found was, no, it's much more about how I do it. So I actually went through, and I've done an exercise, and I do it now every year, of going through and see what can I do differently to live for more from my purpose. And what that has done for me is tremendous. I spent more time having fun. I don't need to do things just the way that, I have a fantastic leader, Lauren Schuster, but I don't need to do things like Lauren does. I can do it in my own way. I am the farmer, and I am sometimes just the practical guy. So that's one thing. The other thing is actually that I found that my direct employees, the leadership team that I lead, they have grown tremendously. I mean, they also took purpose to impact at a later stage, but right after I took it myself, they actually found all of a sudden there was a lot of space to take what I used to do that I did not necessarily enjoy doing, and we're all different. So they could step into a space that they do enjoy. That's the first part. Then the other part, what it has done to me is, I've always been living by a saying, about the path that you leave behind, and actually being able to work with people and helping them find their purpose and helping them live it. It's one of the most rewarding things you can possibly do. So I could have any COVID-19 budget discussion that will drive me crazy for a couple of hours. And then you forget about it when all of a sudden you spend just a couple of hours with people talking about their purpose and how I can help them live it more.
So do you think that that expression is also an expression of your purpose?
What do you mean, which expression?
Well, when you think about helping people get clear on what their purpose is or live their purpose, do you think that's an expression of your purpose?
Exactly. Completely. I mean, it's interesting how, and obviously I've been in commercial roles before. I was GM for Europe Central. But somehow for a period of time, I felt that coaching people, helping people find their path, helping people solve personal challenges was a side job. It was what I did in the evenings. It was what I did when somebody would call upon me for mentoring. And to actually realize that that is actually one of the places where I deliver some of the best work that I do, some of the best value. For instance, means that our entire learning and development agenda, which is part of my remit,
Yep.
95% of that is driven by a brilliant leader, Sahid Kamatia, because that's what he does well. I mean, his purpose is to go where there are no roads, and we're trying to reinvent how we do learning and development. Who am I to get in the way of stopping him in that, right? So, yeah,
You're on the farm and he's going where there are no roads. Sounds like a great combination, right?
It is, absolutely is.
Oh my God, that is so great. So as we take a look at this is sort of talking about you as a leader.